Ke nna Motshabeng moradi wa Albertina, Mama Chona le Joseph Mbutana Moloi. Ke le lekgolokwe le hlaba ho tswana, le hlaba kgoka le mao ka sebonong, le hlaba le sa korong ha mafafane. Mafafane a eja a e halala, a re kgutla hape o e eketsa, motho wa o etsitse.
Welcome to the Journey with Mpho podcast, a sacred space for healing, love, and rediscovering your life purpose. Introducing your host, Mpho.
Okay, so we're going to do a mic check, and for our mic check session, we're doing this or that. So I'll give you two options. Just pick one. It's about a list of 10, so pick one.
Awesome.
So, burger or pizza?
Pizza.
Music or poetry?
Poetry.
Nighttime or daytime?
Nighttime.
Okay. BMW or Mercedes?
Mercedes.
Board games or card games?
Card games.
Toilet paper goes over or under?
Over.
Tacos or wings?
Equal.
No way. You gotta pick one. No equal.
Wings.
Okay. Calls or texts?
Text.
Lotion or perfume?
Cologne.
Okay. Scary movie or funny movie?
Scary movie.
Okay, that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
That is it for our mic check. He kind of hesitated with the tacos and the wings.
I can live with both of them.
Okay. Hello, Journey with Mpho friends and family. I am so excited to be returning to the mic, the studio, and you. It has been a long but restful break. In the studio with us today is Anthony Harris. If you have been a member of our family ever since the beginning, then you will remember Anthony from season 1, episode 27, titled A Letter to the Black Man. It has been over a year since we last spoke to Anthony, so naturally, there's so much to catch up on. Good evening, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. We also have a tiny human in the studio with us today, so bear with us.
Glad to have with us.
So it's been over a year since we last sat and spoke over the mic. When we last connected, you were still writing and performing poetry. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, I've left Hawaii now. I'm out in St. Louis, Missouri now, so I'm doing great.
Okay. And a month after we created the episode, A Letter to the Black Man, the pandemic seized the world. What was your initial experience of the pandemic?
It was tough. You know, for me, it was tough for a lot of different reasons. Mainly, I was in Hawaii and couldn't get out to my kids. Obviously, they were in Texas at the time, which they still are. That made it pretty difficult. Work, obviously, the pandemic just transformed how we did everything. So some people were going into work, some people weren't. You know, telework was a big thing. I think Zoom became a huge thing for a lot of people. Kind of made our job a little bit more difficult. Socially, it was hard too. You know, for somebody like me at that time, especially, we were really big into the poetry scene, trying to get out and do a lot of spoken word and things of that nature. And it kind of just shut everything down until obviously people started doing, you know, online poetry and things of that nature, but it's still not the same. It's just different not to have that social interaction with people in person.
And so how is your experience now? I know now you're speaking about it not being the same, but you jumped into music. You made a lot of music during that time.
I did. Actually, I made a lot more music after the fact. I think during that time though, it enabled me to get into another lane of artistry, which
Okay.
ended up being music in that aspect. I was still writing
Mm,
poetry as I still do, um,
mm,
but not being able to get out and perform a lot of it, which I was accustomed to at that time frame, uh,
mm,
made me want to go explore something different. Uh, my roommate at the time, he also did some music too, which kind of helped that process along. And I
mm-hmm.
just kind of grew to love it, and music is kind of like poetry with a beat behind it, if you will. So
Oh, yes.
it just gave
Yes,
me a
yes.
different avenue, gave me a different lane to kind of express myself and get it out to the masses as well too. Easier than poetry.
Probably easier than poetry. And based off your interactions on social media, I know that your music was well received. Now, let me ask this. When you started making music, did you ever think you were going to quickly jump into music videos too, or did it kind of all happen together?
Yeah, it was awkward. Actually, my first music video, I think it was Don Julio freestyle. I was
Okay.
in the kitchen with one of my friends that he's like really big on SoundCloud and things of that nature, 50,
Okay.
60,000 people. And he just had this instrumental that came on and he was like, Anth, get on and try to do something. And I was like, I don't rap. I just do poetry. Uh, and we ended up, that night, we ended up making this real quick 2-3 minute song that we was like, oh, this can do something. And he was like, let's do a music video to it. And about a month later, I did a music video, and that kind of just opened me up to really just getting out there and doing music for real. So it was kind of simultaneous. I wasn't expecting any of it really. Just kind of took off that way.
And that's kind of the best, I think, when you get into artistry in a way that's free flowing and not in a way where you're like, okay, I'm trying to make money off of this, I'm trying to be famous, I'm trying to be someone. It's like, I really like this and it's kind of flowing with my poetry jam, so I'm going to keep doing it and see how it goes. And people are like, whoa, we can see you're having fun while you're doing this, so we like this too.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. We're going to come back to the music because you spoke about music being very similar to poetry, and I really want to touch on that. But let's shift gears a little bit back to the pandemic. I know a lot of people don't like talking about it, it's been over exhausted, but I do think that there's an important component to this, which is mental health. A lot of people experienced a lot of different mental health challenges during this pandemic. And so I remember I was on Facebook and you had shared a reflection post about having checked yourself into a psychiatric hospital. Are you comfortable sharing some of the specific details of that post with us?
Sure. Um, it was a couple years before the pandemic that happened. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was going through a lot at that time frame. I was going through my divorce. I was away from my kids. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Money wise, I was supporting back at home, and I was
Mm-hmm.
supporting myself in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't cheap.
No.
Um, I was getting ready to deploy to Africa at the time. Um, the people at the time that I was real close with in Hawaii was a few. My circle was usually pretty small. People that I really clicked
Click
with,
with.
they had left. Like military life. It's one
Mm-hmm.
of those things where people
Mm-hmm.
leave, so they left. So I was kind of just by myself at that time. Really, uh, it was just a really hard time. I already deal with anxiety a little bit, so it was just a lot at one time that
Mm-hmm.
really just hit me, and I really didn't feel like I had nobody to talk to at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got overwhelmed, just not being able to talk to anybody. And I think when we did our podcast, I think I talked about that, like the black man being able to, express himself,
Express. Mm-hmm.
open himself up. And I wasn't really doing that at the time. So uh, first time I had ever went through something like that, I don't like to feel like I'm one of those people that do that, but it's one of those things you can't judge a book by its cover. You never really know. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of how it was. Like, you look at me and you see me do things you wouldn't expect that, that would have been me, but
Mm,
it was. And just identifying those signs and realizing I had more to live for, especially with my children, I just decided to go get
mm,
checked in and get some help, get some treatment at that time.
mm, mm, mm. And kudos to you for recognizing that. I think for anyone, I just recently got back into therapy, and it takes a lot to just recognize that first step to say, hey, I don't have the right coping strategies. I don't have the right behavior patterns that are helping me support a healthy mental, spiritual, emotional lifestyle. And I need a little bit of help. And I think sometimes when we're coming into that step, there may be a little bit of shame, even if
Absolutely.
it's telling people around you, like, hey, I've got to go to a therapy session, or hey, I've once been in this situation where I felt like I didn't have enough help and I needed more help than I had. And so kudos to you for not only recognizing that, but taking the necessary steps to get the help that you need so that you could be the best version of yourself, not just for yourself, but for your kids as well.
Yeah, thank you.
you know and then taking that a step further and becoming an advocate for mental health for men in the Black community, because that in itself is a whole different world.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole
Yeah.
thing. It took a long time. It took a long time to kind of open up about that. I think when I posted it on Facebook, I think I even said like, by the time I had posted it on Facebook, there was only I think 2 people that really knew that whole situation. That I was able to really open
Mm-hmm.
to about that situation specifically. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely hard time, but um,
Mm-hmm.
it happens. Like at that time, I just felt like if I could share it and I can help one person say, hey, maybe I do need to go get help, or maybe I should go get help, or you're not the only person going through it or have went through it. Thought I was doing
Mm-hmm.
something by being able to share that. So
That's the motivator in you. That's the mentors, motivator,
right,
life coach in you.
right, absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah, yeah. Really appreciate it, especially now. You didn't go there because of COVID, but being able to speak about it now while a pandemic was going on is really powerful.
yeah,
It really encourages people to stop and say, hey, maybe could I, to your point, do the same thing and get myself the necessary help? There's no shame in that.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I know COVID did a number on a lot of people's mental health,
Mm,
so I thought it was an important time frame just to go ahead and get that out, especially although seemingly, we were getting better from the pandemic. A lot of people, were still kind
mm,
of in it, and were affected by
mm,
it for a lot of different ways, whether directly or indirectly, family members
mm.
passing and all kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of mental health for a lot of different reasons
Mm,
we're going through.
mm.
So
Yeah. It's really good to get back into the podcasting world with this kind of content with you. I'm glad that we're doing this now. I often felt like it needed to be sooner, but I feel like now is the right time for it,
absolutely,
having this
I
conversation.
appreciate you allowing me to be on this journey, this restart of your journey. So
Yes. Okay. So since we last spoke, you had published like Am I Really? That's what we were talking about in A Letter to the Black Man. But then you released Care Package.
I did.
Okay. Tell me more about Care Package.
Care Package was actually my first poetry book. So
Oh, okay.
Am I Really? It was a self help book. Obviously, it was my 10 keys to motivation. Am I Really was my first try at poetry book for out.
Mm,
So the topics were love, lust, misguidance, and trust. So kind of just like a range of emotions that you kind of go through in a relationship, if you will.
mm,
And the challenging thing about Care Package not only was my first poetry book, so it was a compilation of short poems, which I'm used to writing, you know, 3, 4,
fun.
5, 6 minute poems, uh, trying to compile that into a list of a bunch of short ones was a
Mm-hmm,
challenge in
mm-hmm.
itself. But also because of the topics, I was trying to speak from a man and a woman's point of view when I was doing it. So when you read it, there's
Oh.
some poems that you can tell it would come from a woman. Like this is not a man talking. So that was a little bit hard as well. Trying to get into that that bag,
Energy
if you will,
field.
about that. And there was a couple trigger poems in there that, based off like people that I know that are women who have been through certain things, I wanted to write about a little bit. And there were some fun ones, there were some deeper ones, just a full range. But I was also able to introduce a new poet in my book as well too. So on the end of the book, on the last 12 or 13 pages of the book,
Okay.
I let another guy who has never done a slam, never published any poetry, who was interested in it. I introduced him, so I had his picture in there, his Instagram tag, and like 12 or 13 of his poems there too, just to get him out there too. And hopefully people saw his poetry and like it, and gives him an opportunity to get out there as well too. So,
Whoa. Now, full disclosure, I don't know if I have a copy. I can't remember. I haven't read it, but
right.
the fact that you not only published a book for yourself, but found a way to bring in someone who you maybe thought would not do that on their own, but
Absolutely.
would love the opportunity to have an experience like that, is you're still doing the work. You're still
Right.
doing the groundwork of believing in people, advocating for people, and making sure that you not only shine the spotlight on yourself, but that you share the stage with so many other brilliant people in your life.
Absolutely. That's what it's all
Yeah.
about. You know, it take a lot for book wise, right? Poetry generally, right? Getting up on stage, writing it down, it takes a lot to kind of get out and deliver that,
Mm,
because at the end of the day, however you write, whether it's fun, serious, emotional, uh, it comes from somewhere, right? And to
mm,
be able to deliver
mm,
that to other people it's not always the easiest. Sometimes it's
mm,
controversial, sometimes it's uncomfortable. You know
mm,
that better than most. So uh,
mm,
I felt like he was one of those people that he loves to write, but would never
mhm,
have done anything. He said that as much. He said that a lot too. That he probably would have
mhm,
never did anything. He may still never, put a book out or get up there or
mm,
anything. But he had the opportunity to have some of his work out there, which was big to him. A lot of his
mhm.
family bought the book just to, see his 12 or
Um,
13,
mm.
poems in there. And I thought that was awesome because, I told you before, I don't do it for the money. Obviously the money does help, right?
It does. Shout out to poets who need to get paid for their work.
Absolutely, right? But really, I do it because I love to do it. I do it because
Mm,
I'm passionate about it. It's fun to me,
mm,
and I have the confidence to put it out there. So, uh,
mm,
just for him to have a daughter who can go back and see that her dad got some of
mm,
his he has his work published somewhere, and other
mm,
poets who may look at the book and say, oh, this guy's 12, 13 poems are awesome as well. I
mhm,
thought was a good opportunity for him to get out there and get some
mm,
exposure. So he
mm.
enjoyed it. I think on his social media, I think he still has it in his little little
Bio.
block. Right, like, go get the book, right now. So uh, I thought
Um,
it was great.
you didn't tell us his name.
His name is Gemini Lay on Instagram. Um, his, his actual name is Lamont, and he was out in
Okay.
Hawaii for a little while. He's since left, but
Okay. Okay. Really good. Now I need to go buy a care package because I'm not only supporting one artist, I'm supporting two artists, and the other one may or may never show up on a stage somewhere. So it's
right,
really important. Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm. Okay, so earlier on, we spoke about the connection between poetry and music. How different or similar is your music production style versus your poetry creation style?
Totally different. um, poetry. I can kind of just. I think everything is poetry, right? So I could walk around and just start
Mm,
jotting things down, and
mm,
maybe a month from now, I might use something that I wrote down, or if I'm like in a
mm,
certain feeling, I can kind of sit down and kind of just gear whatever my mind frame at that time frame is to poetry. And a lot of
mm,
times when I'm in a poetry writing mood, I kind of have to lock myself in a space, right? So I have to kind of like get in a quiet space, kind of something that has a
mm,
certain ambiance that I'm just it kind of just gets my creative juices flowing more to a
Yeah.
specific thing that I want to write about, right? So
Mm-hmm.
with music, it's kind of more free flowing to me. It's I don't really have to be. I can do it amongst people. I can do it when I'm just sitting in my living room watching
Mm-hmm.
TV.
Mm-hmm.
If I hear a good instrumental, a good beat, generally I'm just drawn to like, oh, I love this sound. I want to write something to it, and I'll just start jotting things down or spitting things out. And if I like it, I like it. I go with it, and I find the topic I want to write about, and just go. And it's fun. Poetry is fun to an
Mm-hmm.
extent. Like I think it depends on what your mindset is at the time, because like I said, poetry is a little bit more, to me, it's a little bit more intimate. So um, I can be furious and write
Mm-hmm.
a great poem. It doesn't mean it was
Mm-hmm.
fun to write that poem because my mindset I was in. I can be sad and write a great poem. It doesn't mean it was fun. I was very emotional during that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to get it out on paper. Music almost all the time is just fun to do. Like it's so it
Mm-hmm.
gets me in a different mood. But what it also does is, because I still write a lot. I don't. I'm still trying to perfect my latest book that I'm trying to put out, that I've been trying to put out for the better part of the last year, but I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
perfect it. It gets me out of writer's block with poetry as well too. When I'm able to write music, because
Mm-hmm.
it just lets my juices flow a little bit more. Um, just putting stuff together, and then next thing you know, I'm able to break out of whatever funk I was in with poetry and start writing again. So totally different process.
Mm-hmm.
But I
So
enjoy it. Like,
yeah. So when you're saying that, it makes me think that poetry is more like a personal journal then. I always criticize my poetic style because I was like, you share too much in your poems. Like you're not writing for the stage, because there's writing for the stage and there's writing for yourself and there's
right,
writing just for the sake of writing. And so poetry more feels like a personal journal session. When you said ambiance, I'm thinking of like your Instagram stories where you light up some candles in the bathroom and you've got your
right,
tray and your book and your wine and you're like,
right,
okay, I'm about to get real good. Now, you may not be in a feel good process when you write a really, really good poem, but it's a I think it's a process of just releasing. Whereas
right,
music is, I can imagine you making beats, you're messing around with this texture of your voice and that texture of your
right.
voice and creating this like concert in a sense for yourself. So very,
Absolutely.
very
Yeah.
different experiences for sure.
Yeah. Poetry is definitely more so like a personal journal. Like, I mean, you said it perfectly. Like, there are some poems that are for the stage, or some poems that are just for you. I
Mm,
think most of us who are poets, we probably have hundreds of poems that we've written that will never get,
mhm,
it'll
mm,
never see a stage. you know. Um, but we also have those ones that, even if they are deep and controversial, whatever, that we just feel the need to put that out there for the stage and whatnot. But
mm,
a lot of times it really just is to ourselves. Like, a lot of times it's just an outlet
mm.
just for us to get some. Now, some people like to go scream. Some people like to go, you know, lift heavy weights. Some people just like to write. Like so.
Yeah, we fight wars with our pens. We're like, okay, this is how I
Absolutely.
feel about this. I'm gonna put some emotions and write this out.
Absolutely. And everybody's a part. It's funny because I tell people when they ask me about,
Mm,
I could never do that, or how do you,
mm,
do whatever. And I say, honestly, everybody's a poet. I think that
mm,
there's a way that when you really get into poetry, obviously you have to, put things together certain ways, right? To make it make
mm,
sense, or to properly deliver it
mm,
if you want to deliver it. But
mm,
if you're just writing to yourself, especially, everybody's a poet. Like, everybody has a
mm,
story. Everybody has a
mm,
journey that they go on, and just writing it down is poetry. I think people get it confused. Like, everything has to rhyme, everything has to do this and that. And I was like,
mm,
that's not really. I
mm,
mean, that's a type of poetry. It is, but that's not
mm,
poetry as a whole. If you go back and look at any of the big poetry names from the past, you can read a lot of their stuff, and some of their stuff doesn't
mm.
rhyme at all. And that's why I tell people, like, and it's not all about
Right.
rhyming and things of that nature.
Mm,
It's a story at the end of the day, and generally their own
mm,
personal stories, to get
mm,
it out to people to relate to, and things of that nature. So
mm. I think the barrier for most people is how they learn poetry in school. They're introduced to the contemporary poets like your
Mm,
Shakespeare's, and they
right.
try and think of that as poetry. Like, if I'm not writing like this, then I'm not a poet at all. But that's not the
Hmm.
case. You could not rhyme. You could write about, I don't know, toasted cheese sandwiches and still have a good poem out
Absolutely.
of that, and people be super amazed with that. So, not confining yourself to those barriers and just opening yourself up to personally journaling your experiences and your emotions. And sometimes I'm telling a story. Like, sometimes I listen to some of my poems and I'm like, whoa, this is not poetry structure. It's kind of a story, but the way
Right.
I'm using my voice and pausing at certain places makes it feel and sound like, okay, I could do this on a stage as a poem, for sure.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Okay, now you've had a few amazing and exciting music videos. What would you say has been the most satisfying aspect of your music journey?
Probably recently, I think it's awesome. Same way I feel about poetry, right? When I was able to get on stage and just, just a crowd of people and, just been able to deliver a message. I think poetry wise, I think one of my first poems I did at Hawaiian Brian's, a lady came up to me and she cried, it was like, it said it was about a single mother, and she was like, that really like tugged in my heartstrings. And when it was the first one I ever did at Hawaiian Brian's, and it made me feel like really
Mm,
good, music wise, because I've been able to. It's so much easier to kind of get your music out rather than poetry and things of that nature. Um, I've been able to get like my stuff like everywhere. So I think I just posted the other day, like I had my first one of my first, well, my first song to hit 30,000 streams. You know,
whoa.
and when I'm looking at like, because I can look at like where streams are being played from, and when I see places, you know, Italy and Russia and things of that nature, I'm just like, wow,
Whoa.
it's crazy to me that people all over
Mm,
um, listen to my music. When I get people
mm.
contact me and say, hey, I have these instrumentals. Um, try to if you like something, you can have the beat. Right to it.
Wow.
It's crazy to me. So really, just being able
Yeah.
to see people's like satisfaction with the stuff. People tag me sometimes and they'll be in their
Mm,
car listening to my song, tag me in the, you know, while they're driving and whatnot with my song in the background. I think it's crazy. It's like really surreal, So I think
yeah.
right now I've been music now. I think the first song I released, that was my song, was in November or December of last year. Um,
Okay.
and here we are in September, about to be October, so less than a year, and over all my music, I've already had more than 100,000 streams. You know,
Let's go.
right? So it's just
Ah,
crazy that people really have taken to it like that.
mm,
And shout out to everybody who's listened and who has shared my stuff and put it out there to their people to get to. Real quick, crazy story. So I saw my mom a few days ago
mhm,
when I was
mhm.
out in Florida, and she was telling me that while she was outside her house, one of her neighbors in the neighborhood came up and was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, your son is Anthony," and she was like, "Yeah," and then she like he goes by Simply Ant on the music, and she was like, "Yeah," and he was like, white guy, right? Not that it really matters,
Yeah.
but he was like, I listen to rap sometimes, and I like some of his songs, and she was like, "Oh, really?" Like, and he's like, "Yeah, I got this song called Leveled Up," and he's like, "Do you know what this song is?" And she was like, can't think of it off the top of my head." He's like, "Come here, listen," and we played it, and she just thought that was so awesome. I thought it was so funny, like just random, guy in her neighborhood. uh,
Even your
you know,
neighbors, your mom's neighbors know who you are. Like, this
right?
is
I was like, I thought it was so funny. So yeah, crazy. Bro, recently I had
yeah.
got voted before COVID. I got voted to go do a show out in North Carolina,
Yes.
uh, and COVID stopped it. I think I was going to pull out of it anyway because I'm getting ready to deploy again. So I didn't want to put my team at a risk to, for COVID and whatnot. But they ended up rescheduling the show because of COVID. But once again, I thought it was awesome that for this showcase, I got voted in from people all around the world to go compete in this showcase out of North Carolina with a chance to win a record deal and like $50,000 and all this stuff. It was nuts. Like it's been a
You're
while.
doing some amazing work. I
been a
think
while.
you're supposed to be doing music.
Maybe, I mean, like I said, it's easier. I think music is it's easier to get out there like that. Poetry is one of those things that I think the poetry community in itself is still very small. I mean, there's a lot of poets out there, but it's a very small community, a very intimate community. And unless you're really just into poetry, you're not getting out there and really like seeing like the music scene is a lot bigger. So everybody loves music in a certain type of way, right? So when you're able to start getting songs out, it's just easy to push that. Like I can push a song, I can get it on Apple Music and Spotify and Tidal and all that. You can't really do that with poetry, for sure. So I think it's kind of at this point, it's just easier for me to get a message or whatever I want to get out to the world through music rather than poetry. But obviously, I still have an affinity for poetry a lot. I mean, it's still my thing. I still love to go perform poetry live when I can. I'm still working on my third book, my second poetry book, Men Cry. So hopefully, I'll have that out.
Love that
before
title.
The end of the year.
He said, "Men cry." I love that title.
It's a journey into the mind of a man's emotions, men emotions, because a lot of people just feel like we don't have them or we don't express them well, which some people don't, so it's just a compilation of poems about men and their emotions, about how we deal with certain things. So I've been working on this one for close to a year now. So yeah, it's gonna be. It's
been cooking it.
It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be real good.
It's gonna be a good one.
I've seen that meme on social media where they have like the mind of a woman and it's like a long, like maybe 1,000-page manual and they're like men. So I feel like the man manual is like that long for me.
Right.
It's like, can't figure them out. Can't figure them out. So I'm glad you are giving us insight into bits and pieces. It may be your experience and your friend's experience, but maybe we'll be able to take from that and use it for the men in our lives too.
You could take something and be like, I kind of saw that. Let me deal with this way. So for sure.
Yeah. You spoke a little bit about the opportunity to enter a competition for a record deal, but outside of that, have you ever performed your music?
Actually, the first time I performed my music was probably about a month and a half ago. I got invited to a showcase out here in St. Louis, actually. And got to perform 3 songs out there. And it was pretty, it was fun. Like, obviously at that time I had never performed music in. Actually, I think performing music is a lot more stressful than performing poetry.
I was just about to say, like the lyrics and like
it's
if you miss it, you can't go back.
Right. It's like there's no rewind. It's no snapping fingers to like bring you back and
help you out.
It's none of that. It's just like you gotta go. You pick up the beat and you just gotta go. And if you stumble, you just have to have the confidence to keep on, going. So it was really nerve wracking. Really. And I ain't think it was gonna be that way. Because I feel like I love being on stage doing poetry. Like I love it. Like I think I'm always nervous right before I get on stage, but once I'm on the stage, I'm good. And I thought I felt I was gonna be the same way with music, but then it's like once you get on there, and you got the mic in your hand, and then your beat starts playing, it's just like, whoa. It's like, whoa.
And I feel like, a poem, people don't know exactly what you're going to say. Like, even if it's the same poem, they may not remember it word for word. But music, people are going to call you out for that. People know songs.
Right. And it's like yeah. So, and it was funny because once again, my stuff has been getting out there, right? So people, they know my songs, right? Some of my songs. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it was on one of my songs, I said I did stumble, but it's funny, people know my lyrics, so they're going, and I stumbled. It's like, hey, you can't know my song better than I know my song.
You could just, here's a tip for next time, okay? Just take the mic. If you get like kind of stuck, take the mic and say, now you guys sing it. And then they like just help you out and like give you the cue.
Put the mic out there. I'm going to have to do something, so, but it was good just to get out there and do it. I think that
Mm-hmm.
I needed to get my feet wet that way, just to, build the confidence to get out there and keep doing it, so because, I kind of treat music like I treat my poetry now too. So I do want to get on stage and do it as well too, because people have fun with that stuff, I think it's always awesome for somebody to see a fan or just somebody who has never heard your stuff.
Yeah.
To see it live, is different, than hear it, through your headphones, your car, whatnot. So
I'm thinking about how sometimes the people in our lives end up in our poems. Is that the same for your music lyrics? Because there was a song, I think I listened to like something kind of like in the lines of like sexy and whatever. And I was like, ooh, is he? I don't know. Is that how it works too?
Yeah, there's some. I have a few songs out there that are, like I said, I have some fun ones out there. I have some, pretty explicit ones. I have some deep ones. I think one of the ones I can think of right now, I wrote to my kids. It's called YAM, and it was really like it's their initials. Sorry.
Okay.
It's their initials. That's the title of the soundtrack. But it was pretty much a story to them about what happened, with me and their mom, and like why everything kind of went down, how it went down, and that whole situation. That was a really emotional song to write, and actually was on my album that I released back in July. It was like the last song on the album. But yeah, I have songs. I think the last music video I did was "Make It Count," and kind of, it's like a story about, kind of where I'm trying to get to, and people who have helped me along the way. I name dropped a couple people. Actually, the two guys that was in the video, both of them are name dropped in my song too. So kind of tells like different avenues and how things have transpired, and how it's not just music. I do a lot of other things, and at the end of the day, it's really all about the people in my circle, being able to succeed too. So if me doing music helps me make it somehow, then obviously the people who have helped me for real is gonna come right along with me. So we're all going. So
still about the community, still about bringing everyone with you to the table.
Absolutely.
Really good, Anthony. Really good. So just a short while ago, you mentioned something about getting deployed and then not being able to go for the record deal. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about something you may not be able to talk to due to the nature of your job. But do you have anything to say about the recent loss of lives in Afghanistan?
I think anytime anybody loses their life due to war, especially, I think it's tragic. War is just a part of what our history is. I think when innocent civilians lose their lives, I think that's very rough. I think my fellow service members who, lost their lives and in the way they did, personally, I think it was preventable, my own personal opinion. However, I also do understand that, and I do agree to an extent that, we were over there for 20 years. At the end of the day, I tell people all the time, there has to come a point in time that, we look out for us, in the U.S. as well too. And I think that was tragic, and we're still not figuring out how to look out for us, in the U.S. But it's costing us a lot of money. It's costing us a lot of lives. It's costing a lot of people, a lot of mental issues, a lot of tragedy. And how long were we going to stay out there? So I don't necessarily agree with how rushed we did it. I think a lot of it was preventable. I think that all those lives that we did lose were absolutely preventable. Being in the military as, unapologetic or as shallow as it sounds, it's one of those things. It's kind of just like the nature of the beast, right? So there's always that inherent risk that when we're deployed, we're overseas, that it can happen, and we always pray that it doesn't. We hope it doesn't. We're trained for this, and when it does, I think it hits all of us, that are in the service rough, because it's always that risk. Like, I'm getting ready to go on my 7th deployment now, so
yeah.
I remember my mom had said something a couple deployments ago, and it's just always nerve-wracking for her, because she was just like, every time you go, it's just like another chance. It's almost like you gambling, right? Like, you gambling with God.
Russian roulette.
Like gambling with God. Like, how many times can you go deploy before something happens? So it's nerve-wracking. Like I said, it was tragic. I feel for all those families and their loved ones, because I do think it was preventable. But I do, to an extent, understand the sense of urgency to get us out of there as well, too. So it's tough. It's tough. It's tough. I think in that situation, there was almost no right answer. And obviously it's amplified when we lose lives, though. When we lose lives of Marines, sailors, airmen, and soldiers, it's always rough. It's always rough.
Thank you for the work that you do. The argument, a very silly argument on social media, will go, well, if you choose the job, then you choose the risk. I think there's very little decision making from your side in terms of getting deployed or not getting deployed. And that's maybe where not choosing the risk is you not choosing the risk as a component. Whenever I'm from South Africa, so I'm not very familiar with the military, and living in Hawaii and being so close to military families and communities, I'm learning at a rapid rate, but I'm still not very familiar with how some of the things work. And the common thing I think I hear is the misconception that it's all about benefits, because when there is loss of life and continued gambling of life, then perhaps the benefits isn't where the focus should be. And perhaps more respect and honor should be given to those people who are committed to being involved in a cause that they may or may not believe in.
Right. And that's a big one. I think you hit the nail on the head with that last statement. At the end of the day, I can understand, people's opinion that, you choose the job, you choose the risk, because really at the end of the day, when you sign the dotted line in the military, you really sign to say that you're going to serve and protect, right? So, whether you fix computers or you fix plumbing or you fix airplanes, at the end of the day, our job is to serve and protect. So, you sign up for that risk. But, at the end of the day, I feel like there is honor in what we do. And, knowing the risk, we still choose to stand up and, serve this country and, all the freedoms that it presents, whether, people like it, don't like it, agree with it or not. And, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who really don't believe in the causes and still do it. I mean, I think most people who practice religion, any religion almost, don't necessarily agree with going out there and having to kill somebody if you have to, you know. And you know, if you're in one of those career fields where you have to be on the front lines and, you know, do the dirty work, if you will, I would go on a limb and say that most people fundamentally don't agree with that. You know, I have to believe it's hard to take another man's life if that's what you're called to do. You know, so and even like the whole benefits thing, I think people get it. I think a lot of people who are not in the military or who have no familiarity with the military get a lot of that confused too. Like, I think people think that we have this unlimited pot of just money and we just get paid crazy, and you know, and it's really not the case. You know, it's really not. You don't
have an unlimited pot of money. Right. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I know, right? You know, it's really not the case. You know, a lot of people in the military still, you know, struggle and, you know, live paycheck to paycheck, and you know, it's still hard. And I mean, benefits, we do get good benefits. You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. You know, we get good medical benefits and things of that nature. But, you know, once again, it also comes with a lot of risk and, you know, sacrifice involved with all that as well too. You know, and on top of that, you don't even keep all that stuff unless you do a full 20 years in the military, you know, to where you can gain retirement. You know, if you do 6 years, you get out the military. Thank you for your service. You know, here's education benefits and whatnot. But now you're back into the, you know, regular world, and where you got to pay these astronomical, you know, medical prices and, you know, things of that nature. So it's just a matter of how you look at it. At the end of the day, you know, it's not our job to, you know, have an opinion on what other people think about, you know, what we do. You know, what you do is what you do. You know, what I do is what I do. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm going to continue to do it. And I know that what we do does make a difference. You know, everybody doesn't agree with it. We don't always agree with it. But, you know, we're, like you said earlier, you know, it's very little decision making in, you know, what my job tells me to do. So getting ready to deploy again, you know, next month, I didn't want to go, but I also can't just say, no, I'm not going to go. So.
Yeah. So to that point, once again, thank you for your service. Thank you for speaking openly and honestly about your experience in the service, because I know that sometimes there is fear for repercussions, but I do think that it's conversations that should not be avoided.
Right.
I think it's conversations that we should have, because there are parents like your mother who have some sort of anxiety when that deployment time comes up. And so I appreciate your openness. I appreciate your perspective on the inside on how things work and how you're doing what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, it is a job, and you've got kids that need your income. You know, you've got people that are relying on you for their well-being. So I have a different job. You have a different job. We do what we do to put bread on the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony. So maybe this one might be like a fun end to our conversation. We are coming up on the hour, but I want to know. Cool. I've got to go back and change the last episode for your Instagram handle, because somebody keeps hacking your accounts, yo. Like, what is the deal? What's happening? Who's trying to be you?
So it's funny, you know, this is the first time my account got hacked. What happens normally is I get a lot of fake profiles made of me. So if you ever watch that show Catfish,
yeah,
there's a lot of fake me's running around social media, and I have been catfishing a lot of people. You know, it's crazy. I really don't know. You know, that's a lot. Like, I have had hundreds of fake pages made of me. I've had a good probably 100 some odd women contact me, because, you know, I started on my last page, you know, before it got hacked. I started watermarking all my pictures because of my I was getting hacked. So my pictures were getting stolen so much. But like, some of the people would still use those, and what would happen is women would see that and they would find my page. And I recently had a woman who she was in a relationship with this guy for 7-8 months, and They was sending pictures back and forth and whatnot, and he messed up and sent one picture with my watermark because he had a bunch of pictures, I guess, that didn't have watermarks. So one picture with it, and I guess she was already suspicious, so she Googled, because my page was hacked at this time, which was crazy, right? So my page was hacked at this time. She ended up Googling the mark, and my music video I had did with Christian had popped up on a Facebook link, and it directed her to my Facebook page, and she contacted me.
Okay, so she's like, "We're dating. I just want to let you know we're dating."
And I've had, I've had people tell me that they're going to report me because I'm the fake. I've had people send me pictures of another man's genitals to be like, this isn't you. I've had I've had people send me like receipts for like money they want me to send them back. That they've sent. I've had just a lot of people like got duped, and they built relationships, and there's a little bit of self accountability in that too, because I tell people all the time, like in today's day and age with technology and whatnot, if you're foolish enough to sit in a relationship with somebody for a year that you've never seen, it's kind of crazy, but I am sensitive to the fact that these still are my pictures being used, and however you spin it, some of these women have been thinking they're in love with a guy that they've never seen or met, and sending these people money and paying people's rents. And I actually had one guy, funny enough, last year sometime during the pandemic, like the big portion of the pandemic, probably in the summer, I was on Instagram Live. I was doing a live, whatever. I don't know what I was doing on live, but had a bunch of people on my live session, and I usually let people call in. We can just talk about whatever, friends I know, just other people. And this random page called me, and it happened to be one of my catfish pages, and it was him. So I answered the thing, and he was on live for everybody to see. And I didn't want to like be really upset. I wanted to understand like what was going on. So he had told me, he said, man, your pictures changed my life.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he got like $17,000 from like women and all this other stuff or whatever. And then I was asking him about like how many pages does he know is out there, whatever. And he said just from like what he know, he said there was probably at least like 100 pages that that he know about, that was like fake, or like I don't know if it was like people he know, if it was like a ring of people that was doing this. And recently I got this page added me on Instagram, and it's exposing a lot of fake accounts, and like legit like 50 of them on this page is fakes of me. Like, it's
What
crazy.
is the obsession with you?
I have
Like,
no
who
idea.
do you think it's a group of people or just like one person? That's so
No, I
weird.
definitely know it's not one person, because
Okay.
I've had somebody accidentally call me as a fake page, like on Instagram, and I picked up, and it was like a white guy, and like he hung up real quick. I've had like these guys from like Nigeria and stuff like that fake my accounts. So I really don't know. I don't know what the exception is. I think at this point it's probably good now that most of my stuff is watermarked, and really you can go to my page and you can see, I am. You can read my comments. You can click on my little link tree and see all my stuff. And but funny enough, I've had a lot of these people who like have got fake. They'll go like buy my books and go do all this other stuff afterwards. I guess trying to keep a connection or whatnot, but. It's awkward. It's still awkward a little bit, So
They really want to be you. They want to talk like you do in your books and your poetry.
yeah, but it's just crazy because it was like it's legit hundreds of pages that have faked me, So I've reported I don't know how many, and Instagram just keeps on saying that because of their staffing and whatnot, they're not taking these pages down. If I feel they go against guidelines, then report a specific picture. Like it's weird. So I just block. At this point, I report them. If they don't do nothing, I just block the accounts. So
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna send my audience your way again. Your Instagram account has changed. What is your handle now?
My Instagram handle now is cognac COGNAC _period Poppy.
All right, guys, go get him back his followers. Go support him. And he is generally a community man. So Anthony is not just going to be on stage by himself. He's going to pull you in and pull his community in. So go and follow that Instagram handle. I will put it as per usual in the episode notes. I will tag him on all of the pictures that I put on. And one last thing, anything to share from the bottom of your heart?
Oh man, always. I want to give a shout out to my kids for sure. Me getting ready to deploy soon. I'm gonna go see them next weekend. The last one to see them until next year sometime. My mom for sure. Got to see her this past week. That was great. My dad, my stepmom as well. My brother's in Russia right now, so I pray for his safe travels back home when he comes back home. And really just everybody that's doing something for the community, for themselves, for their own mental health. Keep doing that. It's important in this day and age. A lot of people need it, even when they don't know they need it. So keep doing that.
That is Anthony Harris. His initial episode was titled A Letter to the Black Man. This one is titled Chilling with Anthony Harris because we're kind of just catching up. It's been a while.
It's been great.
His music is on Apple Music, I've noticed. Spotify, it sounds like. SoundCloud too.
It's everywhere. Any streaming platform you use, it's there. You want to YouTube it, it's there. Amazon is there. So look me up, Simply Ant. That's that's what I go by, my stage and my music name and my poetry name. So yeah, go look that up. Tell me what you like. Tag me in your videos and whatnot. I'll share them to my story. So.
And I think if we can make it work, we're going to sign out. He's going to send me one of these songs, and we're going to sign out this specific episode with one of these songs. So be on the lookout for that. I'll post in the episode notes, Apple Music, because I only support Apple. I'm kidding. Apple Music notes. Thank you so much for joining us, Journey with Mpho family. I am so excited to be back on the mic. I absolutely love you guys. And my sign out is still the same. Mahulokwe kiotaba ruile. Aloha.
Well, before you go, I wanted to thank you for taking the first step in supporting my journey by listening to this episode. The second big step would be exploring the various ways you can become an official supporter of my journey by signing up for our Patreon offerings. We offer some great benefits such as one-to-one phone calls and distance Reiki sessions with me. For more information, visit patreon.com/journeywithmpho. The link is in the episode notes. If you loved what you heard, then subscribe to the show and continue to share episodes that resonate with friends and family. If you're listening through Apple Podcasts, please take a few minutes to rate and review us so we can continue to get our content to the people who need it the most. We are serious about getting your feedback, so if you'd like to take the rating and review a step further, check out our feedback survey link in the episode notes. Your feedback will help us to continue offering content that matters to you and is worth your time. Finally, in this day and age, it apparently matters how many followers you have on social media, so go ahead and find us on Instagram at journeywithmpho, and we promise to make it worth your while by sharing heart-centered, conscious content. Thank you for your continued support. I cannot wait to spend time with you again in the next episode.
I'm working on time. Glory visions while I sit and I sip. Heavy on the principle while my vices be gripped. Never knowing where I goes, but I'm properly fit. Sitting back reminiscing how I started the kid. Really be jobbing this shit. All my funds be legit. Keep my wits about me, boys, so I stay off them bricks. Got my classes out the way, now my future is rich. Better off in a suit than out there selling them zips. Ain't no knocking the hustle, man, get your bag how you wish. It's all the same dollars when we spending this shit. Kept my ear to the streets, it's like it's on repeat. Running storied lanes, really out here scoping the feet. What it is about these days, they got these kids moving loose. Hanging on by a string like they tied to a noose. Walking slaves to the game if I'm telling the truth. How you start to make a change when the problem is you. Get it? Never twist it, I know what I'm saying. Put the ball in your court even when you not playing. I ain't scared to drop a name if you get what I'm saying. Too much be on the line for these niggas that's swaying. Mama's raising sons trying to keep their ass away from Satan. But these daddies causing hell, now they fill them with hatred. Treat them like they step kids that be locked in the basement. Wishing daddy was around just to ease some frustration. It's real, I learned them lessons quick, put them to use. My son looking up, trying to see what daddy'll do. Whether I'm packing the shoot or I'm just bagging the loot. Seeing how I do it gives the kids some actual views. So when I do it how I do, I'm just impactful with tools. It's the way I gotta move to make impacts on my dude. Making peace with his mom, I respect what she do. We put our differences aside, now we cater our crew. I'm a different type of nigga, stay in lanes of my own. Got the class now in session, time to put down your phones. Trying to give you blueprints for something already shown. If the song cries a little, then my mission was home. We all the same people, but the difference is you. All these duck niggas, I'ma stay playing goose. Running niggas out they sneaks and my action is proof. Forecasting on the weather and a storm coming through. But on the real, can't deny I be flexing sometimes. I worked hard just to get it though, hell of a grind. Don't get it twisted, I'm just gifted with a hell of a mind. So to hit my own peaks, I gotta stretch it sometimes. For real, the focus on my future heavy on dude. When distractions coming in, I fall back to my truth. I pipe up just a little as my dreams coming true. But the sacrifice to get it ain't for weak, what's your move? Had a convo with my nigga about how to be great. I told him, do what you do, man, fuck what they say. Create your own lane, tell them get out your way. Ain't no room for no second guessing, do it your way. And you see there's the difference, cause I'm actually different. I don't mimic shit, so my path is never specific. To be compared to the greats is never actually mission. Cause I get it how I get it, and I love how I did it. Wrote a couple books, so you see that sharing is passion. Got a clothing line now, so my vision is fashion. Made a name through some poems, now emotions be captioned. And my music tells it all, got my fans up and dancing. I ain't playing, man, really, it's as sweet as it looks. Took a couple lumps, but I'm serving life up some hooks. No convention to this path, but a mastery book. Piped up on the scene, watch the chef steady cook,